Razor wires that you photographed?
I did not. That is SLED.
Thank you, son.
And then redirect.
Just a couple. This wasn't your investigation, was it?
No, sir.
It would have been completely irresponsible of you to go in there and tap that
One
tax.
question,
Sir?
objection to form.
611C,
The objection sustained.
what was your responsibility regarding this crime scene?
To photograph overall for documentation purposes and wait till SLED arrived and advise them what I knew and provide them with my photos.
In whose case was it?
SLED?
It was not in Old Charleston's case.
No.
Thank
Any further questions? Thank you. You may step down. Let me call your next witness.
you. Call Al Brown.
Let's all stand while we're waiting for this next witness.
You swear affirm the testimony you shall give the court, the jury, and the trial of this case, give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. Please state your first and last name and spell your last name loudly, clearly.
My name is Almon Brown. First name spelling A-L-M-O-N, last name B-R-O-W-N.
Good morning, Mr. Brown.
Good morning, sir.
Are you currently employed, sir?
No, sir, I am not.
Where were you previously employed?
State Law Enforcement Division?
And you, just so the jury is aware, you've recently had some medical issues, is that correct?
Yes, sir, I have.
Which have caused you to be in the hospital,
Yes, sir.
and which now cause you to be on medication, is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
Are you able to handle your responsibilities to testify in your opinion, sir?
I believe I am, sir.
Okay. Could you please relate to the jury your employment histories, beginning back in between 98 and 2003? What did you do?
Yes, I worked for a private investigation firm out of Florence, South Carolina. Was a state certified private investigator. Upon completion of employment with them, I went to South Carolina Highway Patrol, where I worked as a dispatcher while I was in college. Also during that time, I was a certified state constable through the State Law Enforcement Division, in which I worked for several different entities throughout the state, hurricane details, bike weeks, things of that nature. Then I also worked for the Lexington County Sheriff's Department as an intern, as a crime scene intern at the Sheriff's Department there. Upon graduation from the University of South Carolina with my bachelor's in science and criminology, I moved to Durham, North Carolina, where I became a crime scene supervisor with the Durham, North Carolina Police Department. Did that until 2008, when I returned back to, 2011, where I returned back to South Carolina and obtained employment with the State Law Enforcement Division as a crime scene investigator, special agent, and forensic scientist.
And you remained employed by SLED up until when?
To July of 2015.
So you were working with SLED on April the 4th of 2015.
Yes, sir, I was.
And in what capacity again?
I was a special agent assigned to crime scene and forensic scientist.
And how did you become involved in the case against Michael Slager?
I was the on-call crime scene response agent.
Okay, so y'all have to stay and call on the weekends?
We have call 24/7, 365. It's a rotating call, so you're on call from usually a Wednesday to Wednesday.
Okay, you were the lucky guy then.
I was, yes, sir.
And who notified you of this incident?
We have our operations desk. We call them OD. So our operation desk, they receive the call from the local agency that's requesting assistance, and then they call the requested SLED assets from there.
Okay, and do you recall about what time it was when you were notified?
If I refer to my notes, I believe it was 10:20 is what, approximately 10:20 in the morning.
And what was your role in the investigation of this case?
I was the senior principal crime scene investigator assigned to this case for the State Law Enforcement Division.
Did anybody else from SLED's crime scene unit respond to this location?
Yes, sir. We worked in tandem teams of two. So I had Special Agent Jamie Johnson, who was my partner. She was also responding as well.
Okay, and did y'all respond together? Did y'all come separately? Or?
No, sir. We drove separately. Both of us were responding from the Columbia area, and we both responded separately.
And did both of you respond directly to the scene of the shooting?
No, sir. I made the decision while en route, due when I was notified that Officer Slager had been removed from the scene. I requested that Agent Johnson report to the North Charleston Police Department to try to retrieve the firearm used and any other evidence that we may need to get from Officer Slager or other officers that may be present with him at the North Charleston Police Department. And I proceeded to the scene.
Okay, and do you recall what time it was about when you actually got on scene?
According to my notes, I arrived approximately 12:15.
And where did you park?
I parked on Craig Road. I believe that's remount that we came in off of. Remount, turned onto Craig and went down. There was North Charleston had set up a command post in the middle of Craig Road, adjacent to a yellow road, as we referred to it as the yellow brick road while we were there.
Okay. And did you receive any kind of briefing upon arriving at the scene of the shooting?
Yes, sir. Initially, when I got out, before I could get out of my vehicle, I was met by Chief Deckard, I believe, with North Charleston Police Department. He kind of gave me just a very brief synopsis, not a really detailed reporting, but kind of said that there, officer-involved shooting that took place after some type of traffic stop, and had said it took place down this road, this yellow road here. So the traffic stop took behind us, but then continued down where this yellow road is. After realizing he didn't really provide much more than that, I started searching for someone else. I ran into Brittany Martin with the medical examiner's office or the coroner's office. She was able to give me a little bit more detail, but then finally Captain Neal with our agency from the region, he was able to provide a lot more detail and gave probably what I would consider a true briefing of the events.
And what did you learn as a result of the briefing that you received?
That essentially Officer Slager had initiated a traffic stop that came to stop at the auto parts store located at the corner of Remount and Craig Road. He had made contact with the driver, had obtained identification from the driver, apparently returned to his patrol car to begin processing the traffic stop. Sometime during the process of doing that, the driver of the vehicle exited the vehicle expeditiously and began fleeing on foot down the area of Craig Road. Officer Slager gave pursuit. At some point, activated a taser. There was some type of tussle that was alleged to have occurred, possibly another taser deployment, and then shots were fired.
Okay. And was it your understanding that Mr. Scott, the deceased, had gained control of the taser during that scuffle?
There was some mention of that at the time, but there was no definitive answer that that had occurred, but there was some mention that it was believed that he could have gained control of the taser mechanism.
Okay. And what did you observe upon walking through the scene initially?
Initially, from entering upon Craig Road down the yellow road, I could see there was evidence of some type of taser deployment. There appeared to be what we call anti-felon IDs. Essentially, it looks like confetti that has serial numbers. This is something that comes out of the taser. We call them aphids. I saw some what appeared to be aphids on the ground. Also could see what appeared to be like a taser door with a wire. So there was some evidence there that there's some type of taser deployment had occurred in that particular vicinity.
And this was on the yellow road and on what location?
It was on the yellow road, and I would say 5 to 10 feet from Craig Road.
So it was on the Craig Road side and close to the Craig Road?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
As we continue moving down the yellow road, as we're walking toward the back of, I believe that's Megapon, if I recall, as we're walking down, we see evidence of another taser deployment along with some what appears to be personal effects toward the center. There was a patrol car part in the middle there. I believe it was a hat, a wallet, and a watch that looked like it appeared to be laying on the center of this road. Again, another taser deployment just prior to you get to that. And then we found some cartridge cases that had been deposited in the grassy area to the right of that, if you're facing Megapon, to the right of that yellow road.
Okay. And where was the victim's?
The victim was to the left of the yellow road in the grassy area. And North Charleston had placed a tent over the decedent.
They approached the bench, Your Honor. I'd like to direct your attention to State's Exhibits 86 through 91, I believe are already in others. And if you would, just tell our jury what they're depicting. And let's start with 86. Can you see that monitor behind you, Mr. Brown?
Yes, sir, I can.
Okay, this is State's Exhibit number 86. Can you tell the jury, excuse me, what that shows?
Yes, sir. This would be the view if you were looking from Craig Road, looking toward the back of Megapon, from Craig Road, looking down the yellow road toward the back of Megapon.
Okay, and 87.
This is a closer view, same perspective if you're looking from the Craig Road entrance, but this is a little bit further down the yellow road. You can see where they've roped off with crime scene tape and some of the North Charleston police cars. You also see the blue tent I was referring to back over here to the left, and then you'll see the patrol car in the center, and just before that you'll see some of the personal effects in this picture.
Okay, and 88, I believe it is.
There again, same perspective, looking from the same angle, but closer into the scene. We can see the patrol car in the center. You can see some of the personal effects that are laying there in the center of the yellow road. And then, of course, you have the blue tent where the decedent is over to the left.
So the
These-
personal effects you're talking about would be right there to the right.
Correct. I believe that's a hat, and then there should be a wallet and a watch somewhere near there as well, in the same vicinity.
89.
There again, this same perspective, but more to the right side of the yellow road. So we're looking at the patrol car. The same effects are there. You can kind of see in the grassy area, there's some what appears to be white paper there.
Those items there.
Yes, sir. These were attempts made by North Charleston to try and help us identify where cartridge cases were. They had tried to put some markers down just so, one, they wouldn't get tampered on or trampled over, but they could try and identify that there were cartridge cases there. Some of those had blown around. They weren't exactly in the same spot by the time we got there.
The cards.
Yes, the white objects, yes, sir.
Okay. 90.
This will be if you're standing on the left side of the yellow road. Still, Craig Road, from this perspective, Craig Road would be to your right, Megapon would be to your left. So this is the patrol car, the back of the patrol car that's in the center of the yellow road. You see some of the personal effects there in the center of the yellow road. And there again, you can still see some of the cards or the white cards over in the grassy area.
Do you know what this item is to the right here?
That appears to be, I believe that's one of the taser cartridges that was taken off of the actual taser device.
And lastly, 91.
This would be if you're standing Over in the grassy area, you'll notice the white cards there. So this would be to Craig Road would be to your left, and Mega Pond would be to your right. You can see the little white cards where the reported cartridge cases were there in the little grassy area. You can see the hat and some of the personal effects there on the yellow road patrol car. And then on the opposite side, you can see the angle and where the tent is that is covering the decedent.
Do you know why there was a tent over the victim's body?
Yes, sir. We were briefed upon arrival. I believe Detective Ong had advised me that there was weather. Prior to us getting there, they had believed there was a weather event that was about to transpire, and so they wanted to try to protect any evidence and the decedent's body from anything happening from weather-related events. So they placed that there to try to prevent that.
In general terms, could you explain to our jury how you go about processing a scene like this?
Yes, typically when we in any scene that you work in crime scene, there is no right way, wrong way to work a crime scene is what they'll tell you. So each person you develop your own way over time what works for you. Sometimes you have to make exceptions because of things and work around things. But generally speaking, I like to work from the outside in. So I'd like to start from the furthest most point as possible and work my way into a scene. I want to start by taking just photos in general of how it looks when I get there. So before I put any kind of markers or anything that I would contaminate the scene with, I want to be able to photograph it how it looks in its place, in its normal place. So that's kind of what these photos here that we've briefly gone through, what they were. They were kind of overall photos, what I call, of what the scene looked like before we got in and really started doing our work. So once we would do that and we'd take these initial overall photos, we then would want to come back in and we'd place markers. And we'd put markers down where we see evidence is at. And this is kind of the initial phase. We mark what we can see first. And once we've marked those, we start the process over again. Start with photos over again. We have overalls, which is our big views of where our area is at. Then we have a mid-range, which is a little bit closer to where the evidence is at. And then we have close-ups, which shows exactly the marker and the actual item we're picking up in really close proximity in the frame of the photograph. Once we do that, we then go back and start picking that evidence up. Once that evidence is picked up, then we'll usually go through and start looking for other evidence. So evidence that maybe we didn't see initially, we'll do another walkthrough and see what we can find then. If we don't find something then, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. This scene was a little intricate. In this particular scene, we had this evidence laying out in the open, but we also have a decedent that true is protected under a tent. But what I wanted to do is, after talking with the coroner, they had told me that they believed the decedent was laying in an ant bed. And from my training and experience, we've learned that any type of anything you interfere to, a decedent's body, whether it's animal activity, insects, these can cause problems when it comes time to examine them for a pathologist. So I wanted to examine the body first. So I made the decision to let's bypass what's out here in the open and let's go straight to the decedent first, and let's try to examine the decedent's body. Upon doing so, I was able to see that the decedent was lying in an ant bed. And felt that that was a priority to try to remove the decedent as soon as possible, but with us still being able to document what we could on scene and the way the victim was positioned and any evidence that may be there with the decedent. So that's kind of what we made a decision to do that first in this case.
We'll get to that in a little bit, but how about measurements? Do you take any kind of measurements? Yes,
I apologize, I missed that step. One of the part before we start picking things up, we do a sketch. So we do the photographs, we do a sketch of the scene to show where things are at, and we also will take measurements to show a relationship. So we can go back if we have to. We want to be able to try to take enough measurements where if we had to go take that particular item of evidence and put it right back in the same spot at a scene, we could do so. There is always a margin of error, because if we're not using a specific pinpoint device that does this, then there's always going to be a margin of error depending on the measuring device that you're using. And so in our case, most of the time, we take two measurements. We do what's called a triangulation method. We'll try and do two measurements to two separate objects back to one point over the particular item of evidence. And that's what was done in this case. We used, I don't know if you want me to get into the device that we use at this time.
Sure. What did you use to do the measurements?
We use a Hilti device. If you're familiar with construction work, Hilti is a known big name in the construction era. This is a laser type device that it measures from point to point using a laser measurement. There is a margin of error, and we usually account for that margin of error as well as we reliability test that. So usually once a month, this device is reliability tested in-house in the laboratory to maintain that the laser is accurate and that the accuracy is documented.
Okay. And just to explain to the jury how you do this, you see something that might be evidence, you put a marker in.
Yes, sir.
And what do you measure from? You measure from that marker?
Well, marker, you're measuring from the actual item you're standing over. So if it's an item of evidence, you want to try and stand over as close to the item as possible, and then you'll find 2 points. In this particular case, there was a nice line of power poles on the, if you're looking at the photograph here, kind of would have been to my right and to my left, there was like a line of power poles. You'll see in some later photos. And I made the determination that those would be good reference points for the items of evidence. So I used those poles. So what I did is I took measurements from the various poles back to the item of evidence that I was standing at.
Okay. And so you put a marker down, you stand over the marker and just hold this device in your hand?
Yes, sir.
Did you use a tripod or anything like that?
No, sir. This particular device doesn't. You can put it on a tripod. The manufacturer does not recommend that it had to be on a tripod. And in my training experience, we never used it on a tripod. We mainly we'd stand over the item that we were at, point it to it. In this particular device, you can't see the laser at daytime unless it has a hole on the side of it, an optical area where you have to literally look down over it, and that will actually show you your laser on the target that you're aiming for. If it's daylight hours, you won't see the laser, so you have to do it that way. If it's nighttime, you can see the laser a little bit easily on the item that you're pointing to. So in this one, normally my process is I will actually take the device where the optical side is facing me, place it right over where the item of evidence is that I'm looking at. I will put it right here, and then I will place my eye over it carefully, looking for the laser on the target that I'm aiming for, and then once I have it, I press a button on the side, and that actually triggers the measurement. And it'll give me a okay, it'll send me a beep saying, yep, it took the measurement. If it didn't take the measurement, it'll send me like 3 beeps letting me know that it didn't take the proper measurement, and I'll know I have to remeasure. But once I got the measurement, I can turn the device over, it'll give me my readout, and then I document what that readout was from that particular area.
And I understand this particular device you use can be set to measure from the front of the device or the back of the device. Do you know how it was set in this particular case?
I do not. It actually can be measured from the front, middle, or the back, but I do not recall what it was set for at this particular time.
So bottom line, these measures are approximate. It'll get you back to the approximate location.
Yes, sir, and that's why we document it as such. They're approximate measurements.
Now, you said that part of your initial investigations, you do a rough crime scene sketch. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And for what purpose?
Mainly, you want to be able to have something to refer back to. When we get back to the crime lab, we want to do a final sketch. So we want to do something that looks more formal, more presentable, something easy for jurors to read, easy for the general public to understand and be able to perceive what we saw out there. Sometimes you can't view all the photos. Sometimes we take thousands of photos. You're not going to be able to look at every single photo we took. So we want to be able to basically be able to give you kind of a bird's eye view. If you were standing over that day looking at what we saw, you would kind of be able to see the placement of everything that we saw, from the evidence to where items were parked to where general things were at. And so we do a rough sketch because obviously we don't have the computer software in the field to be able to do the final sketch. So we do a rough one just in our notes so we know where the basic things are, we know where the measurements are, and we can take that information back to the crime lab and do a more formal and final sketch that looks more presentable.
And did you do that in this case?
Yes, sir, that was done.
And I believe you used some sort of software to do the final sketch?
Yes, I don't remember, it's a Microsoft product, but I don't remember. Visio, Microsoft Visio, I believe. I can't recall, but I know it's a Microsoft product that they use.
Okay. And is this diagram drawn to scale?
No, sir, it's not.
But does it accurately reflect the location of items one to another, the proximity of items one to another?
Yes, sir.
And there was some measurements on the crime scene diagram. Were those measurements on the crime scene diagram accurately reflect the measurements you took with your Hill-tie device?
Yes, sir. As far as I had them documented, yes.
And there's a legend attached to the crime scene diagram as well, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, at this time we will move State's Exhibit 16 into evidence as a demonstrative exhibit.
Any objection?
Terminology is, as I understand, demonstrative. It's demonstrative.
With reference to this, assist you in explaining your findings to the jurors.
Yes, sir. I believe it would.
You may use it. Demonstrative purposes.
This pardon? Yes, ma'am. State's Exhibit 16. It might be, may I set this tripod up behind the witness, Your Honor? It might be the best place. If I put this up here, will you be able to see it?
Yeah.
You see that okay?
Yes, sir.
If we could we start off just kind of getting everyone oriented to where things are on that, crime scene diagram. First of all, could you show them Remount Road?
Yes, sir. May I stand up?
You may stand. I'm trying to find one.
I believe I got one right here, sir.
Okay, yeah. Knock yourself out.
All right. So, Remount Road, this area up here. Craig Road.
I'm sorry, what's the name of your road?
I'm sorry, Remount, and then Craig. You have the Advanced Auto Parts store here at the corner of Craig and Remount. Officer Slager's patrol car, the decedent's vehicle. Then, of course, this is the yellow road here. Back of Megapone. These areas of orange little markers, these are marking items of evidence that were marked by us. These white specks here, these white specks where you see RPs, RP 1, 2, 3, 8, 4, these are reference points. These are those poles I explained to you, and those are ones that were used as reference points. This is the alleyway that would be over adjacent to where the grassy area was at. Of course, if you see these markers here, the F, we have a device called a Faro scanner. This is a 3D type scanner that we use to take 3D scans of areas, areas of evidence, areas of scenes that we've gone to, and those are indicating where Faro scans were taken from. So that's what the F means there, that there was a scan taken from that particular type of area.
Now, while you're addressing that particular issue, there were no Faro scans taken on the day of the shooting.
No, sir, there was not. No, sir, there
And
was
why
not.
was that?
The Faro scanner at the time, it was a new device, and we had, because it was a very, very expensive device, We had a lot of instructions that it was not to go out in environments if it was believed that it may get wet or damaged. In this particular case, since we knew from the call that we got in that it was alleged to be bad weather and raining, we decided not to take it with us because we didn't want to take a chance of jeopardizing. It's like I said, it's a pretty expensive piece of hardware, and we didn't want to come out of our paycheck. So we chose not to take it on that particular day. But we did decide after that day and talking more that we felt that it would be probative because our software guy who does the composition of it, he's able to go back and use measurements to place things back into the scene after the scans are done, after evidence has been picked up, so it can be recreated. That's what the whole mindset of this scanner is for.
Okay. Now, could you point out to the jury where the general location of Mr. Scott's body?
Yes, sir. This area right here.
You can resume your seat, sir, if you would like.
Thank you.
You indicated that before you really did anything anywhere else, you initially started with the examination of the body. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
And could you relate to the jury what you observed upon examining Mr. Scott's body?
Yes, sir. If I can, may I refer to my notes, please, sir? Upon examining inside the tent, we noticed that the decedent was observed lying on his back. His right leg was crossed over his left leg. The victim's left arm was lying by his side and slightly out from the body. The victim's right arm was extended above his head. The victim was clothed with a green shirt and a white shirt, which had been cut to provide medical aid. He was wearing blue pants and green and white Adidas shoes with white socks. He had on a gray metal necklace around his neck and a Dallas Cowboys bracelet on his right wrist. Medical debris was observed on and around the victim. The victim appeared to have been intubated and had an ambu bag attached to the laryngeal tube going down his esophagus, or trachea, excuse me. There was automatic external defibrillator, or AED pads, were observed on his back and torso. There were also electrocardiogram or EKG leads that were observed on the torso of the victim. Upon removing the AED pad from the back area, myself and Deputy Coroner Martin, we observed what appeared to be a taser probe or barb or dart stuck in the victim's back. Agents did it. We observed multiple gunshot wounds to the back of the victim, and the following wounds were observed. What appeared to be a right ear wound, possible graze to the right ear. There was one in the upper right shoulder, in the right back side, just right of the midline, and lower back right above the waist, and one to the right upper buttocks area. At that particular time, after we examined this, photographed this, we decided that it was in the best interest to go ahead and preserve any trace evidence that may be on the decedent's hands, so we decided to bag and seal the hands at that particular time.
Did the location of the wounds cause you any concern based upon your briefing?
Yes, sir.
Why?
Because they appeared to be to the back and the right side of the decedent. Normally that you have to take in the context of things, but given the information that we had from the initial briefing, it seemed that they were to the back side. Just didn't seem correct.
Okay. And what was done with the body when you completed your examination?
Once we concluded the examination and we had bagged and sealed the hands, The coroner's office has a protocol for having, the bodies transported, and so that was done. They had called for their transport team to come, and the body was placed into a sterile body bag and secured with a Charleston County Medical Examiner ID tag, and secured and then transported to their facility.
Mr. Brown, I'm going to hand you what's been marked as State's Exhibits 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 99, 100, and 101. And ask if you recognize those persons.
Yes, sir, I do recognize these photographs.
And do those photos fairly and accurately depict the condition of the deceased as you found them upon your examination on April the 4th of 2015?
Yes, sir, I believe they do. Just a correction on the day, I believe it was 2014.
No, it's 2015.
I apologize, I'm wrong.
Your Honor, I believe we have 95, 96, and 101 already in evidence, if I'm not mistaken. And we would offer 92, 93, 94, 99, and
So,
92, 93, 94, 99, 100, we will reject.
all right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have you go to the jury room. Mr. Clerk, how do we stand with lunch for the jury?
10 to 15 minutes.
All right, we'll have you go to the jury room. Please do not discuss the case. Mr. Durant, of course, all exhibits are in the custody of the court reporter, and you can get them and retrieve them from her, but do you have any place that you can keep them other than the bench?
I would love to, Your Honor. I had them, believe it or not, I had them all in order before we got to
Yeah,
the court.
all right, well, you can take them away from me. Yes, sir, concerning number 92, 93, 94, 99, and 100. Yes, sir.
Approach, Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
92 basically is a photograph, Your Honor, of the deceased covered under the tent in proximity to, I believe, what will be testified as a taser cartridge right there.
Will be testified by,
This
yeah,
witness.
was there any reason why you're seeking to give that information as opposed to a witness giving that information?
Well, I was hoping to have the witness give the information with the assistance of the photographs, Your Honor.
Well, you can mark, they're marked for identification. You can give them to the witness and ask them whatever you want to about them. That's not the same as introducing them into evidence.
If you would prefer me to do it that way.
Well, that's the way it's supposed to be done, because you're asking me to rule based on what you're telling me versus as to what's anticipated versus what's in evidence.
I will do it in any way you direct me to, Your Honor.
Well,
You know,
Otherwise, I have no basis to rule other than your representations as to what you think a witness is going to say. Now, of course, the defense may have an objection anyway, but
yes, Your Honor, I'll be more than happy to have the witness describe what is in the photograph.
all right, we'll do that to save time since the jury's out.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Hopefully it's save time.
Could you describe what is in State's Exhibit number 92?
Yes, sir. This would be a view of taking a picture of the decedent, having opened the tent. So my back would be to the yellow road. This would be looking, facing the alleyway. And this is a picture of the decedent. Appears to be covered in a medical blanket. There appears to be what appears to be a taser cartridge with some wire that's extending back toward the area of where the decedent is lying.
State's Exhibit 93.
This is a more mid-range shot moving toward inside the tent. You can see what appears to be the ambu bag and the intubation tube in the decedent. You can see what appears to be a cell phone extended to the right, the green and white shirt that appears to be of cut, and also some other medical debris near the decedent, as well as the yellow blanket, the medical blanket he was covered with.
These photos taken by you?
Yes, sir, they were.
State's Exhibit number 94.
This will be another mid-range shot. This will be standing over the decedent, looking from upper chest above his head. There again, you can see the decedent's the face with the ambu bag, the intubation tube. You can see the green and white shirt. You can see a bracelet on his right hand. You can see the cell phone in this area, as well as some more medical debris.
Okay. State's Exhibit 99.
This would be the examination of the victim when we rolled him to his side to examine the back. This would also, you can see that we've already bagged the decedent's hands and sealed them at this particular time before we rolled him. You can see what appears to be gunshot wounds and some other debris on his backside, and the appears to be several gunshot wounds, but they extend down from the shoulder area down to the upper buttocks area that can be seen in this photo. You can also see the green and white shirt still, and you can also see the preparation of the body bag in this particular photo.
And State's Exhibit number 100.
This is the photograph after we have placed the decedent inside the body bag and it has been sealed. The coroner is actually holding the seal at this time so we could document the actual serial number on the body bag tag to show that it has been sealed and secured.
second, Mr. Savage.
Your Honor, may we display the photographs so that we can both look at the witness?
I'm through looking at them.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
With respect to...
No, Mr. Savage, I don't rule based on cross-examination. I rule based on the testimony in the record, not based on cross-examination. We're not changing the stage of the trial to allow interim cross-examination. This is on admissibility based on the testimony and the evidence. Yes, sir.
Based on the testimony of this officer, State's Exhibit 100 is the full composition of the body bag. It's my understanding from his testimony that the purpose of this was to identify the seal on the bag, and there is a photograph that was taken, I believe, in evidence of the seal itself. It has not been...
Is that a matter in dispute that the decedent was bagged and taken away? Is that a contested issue in the case?
No, but it is a issue with this particular photograph being cumulative and prejudicial.
All right, I agree with you. I sustain the objection.
With respect,
If I can,
Yes, sir. Just only one argument per counsel.
Your Honor, Mr. Savage has raised an issue during discovery in this case concerning the body bag being open, the
Right.
prints being taken from the deceased,
Right.
and then the body bag being resealed. This was done strictly in anticipation of that.
Right.
If he has no intention of raising that issue, then we have no need to have it in now.
if I may,
Yes, sir.
if that becomes an issue, I'm sure they have a right to put witnesses back up to contest whatever that issue is.
All right, I sustain the objection already.
what exhibit was that?
This is State's 100. With respect to State's 93, Your Honor, from the testimony of this witness, it displays the medical equipment that was used at the scene. And I assume in proximity to the cell phone. States 93 and States 94 are the exact same reference from a different angle, but depict the same information.
What's the basis for the objection? We know what's in the pictures, but
403 prejudicial.
as to which ones?
Prejudicial as to 93 and prejudicial as to 94.
93 is admitted over objection. 94, the objection is sustained.
With respect to 99, our objection is prejudicial and cumulative to other testimony that could be obtained.
It's overruled as to 99. It represents shots to the body that that impacts upon facts and issue, and it's not unduly prejudicial when I weigh the prejudicial effect against the probative value. It is admissible.
And 92, both prejudicial and cumulative.
And 92 is admitted as being probative and not prejudicial. All right, let's bring the jury back one more time. Let's stand for a moment. We're trying to go till jurors' lunch here. We're going to stop immediately. How many minutes is that going to be? 5 or 6. 94 and 100 are excluded.
present that to the report. Those two right.
Yes. All right, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All exhibits are admitted in that sequence except for number 94 and 90.
Okay, and let's start with State's Exhibit number 92, if we could. This is State's Exhibit number 92. Could you please describe to the board?
Yes, sir. This, if you orient yourself looking at the photograph, the yellow road would be behind you. To the right would be the mega pond, and to the left would be Craig Road. Just beyond the yellow tent, you would see the alleyway behind where the decedent is lying. What you can see in this photograph, this is a overall photograph of once we opened the blue tent. You can see what appears to be a little black, appears to be a taser cartridge with some wire extending back toward the feet of the decedent. You can see a yellow medical cloth or blanket that's been laid across the decedent. You can see the decedent's legs crossed, the green and white Adidas shoes, the blue pants. You can see some other medical debris lying around the decedent in this area.
What is this black item in the foreground?
That was later to determine it was a taser cartridge.
State's Exhibit number 93.
And this particular, that's okay. In this particular photograph, this is more of a mid-range shot. We've moved in closer into the tent. You can see the decedent covered with the yellow medical blanket to the left of the area. You see the green and white shirt that's been cut and torn. You can see part of the decedent's face with the ambu bag and the intubation tube, along with some oxygen tubing that's extending off of that. If you look where to the right, where that oxygen tubing is extended, there's a black, and it was a cell phone that was laying in that area.
In this area, right?
Yes, yes, sir. This would be a close-up view of the decedent's feet. This was to show the arrangement that the feet were crossed over, the white socks, the green and white Adidas shoes, the blue pants. And in this particular photo, you can see what appears to be wire. This appeared to be consistent with some of the other taser wire that we had found in the particular area.
And 96.
This is a picture of the decedent's hand. Without an overall view, I'm not sure if this is his right or left, but this is a picture of one of his hands. and it was just to show that, there wasn't nothing in that particular hand that we could see. Obviously, you can still see some medical debris further up the arm. Also, you can see part of the green shirt in this particular photo.
Could you tell me what this filament appears to be along this line?
Oh, yeah, there again, more of that wire that we found that appeared to be consistent with the other wire we found near the tasers.
State's Exhibit 99.
This is a picture of the decedent after we had, obviously you can tell where we have bagged the hands and sealed them. We decided to roll to examine for any injuries and to document the injuries as such. These are photos where you can see on the back side of the decedent, back right side, you can see what appears to be gunshot wounds that extend down from the top right shoulder down to the top buttock area. There's also some debris on the back side of him. We also, you can't really see in this photo, but we were able to see this is where we saw some of the ant activity beginning to take place. You can see the green and white shirt in this particular area that the decedent had cut off the decedent. Obviously, his pants and his shoes can also be seen. You can also see where we're in preparation to place the decedent in a body bag.
And could you point out to the jury the location of the gunshot wounds that you can observe in this particular photograph?
May I stand, please?
There's a gunshot wound up in this area in here. One that we can see here, one here, and then I can't reach the upper buttock area. You see the little hole right there where the buttock area is. That appeared to be one as well. And I believe there was one right in here as well.
And lastly, sir, 101.
And this particular photograph, this is just documenting after the coroner we've placed the decedent inside this body bag and secured him. The coroner has placed their tag with a serial number to secure the zipper, and we've documented that it has been sealed and secured. You can also, I believe, see some of the ants actually on the body bag in this particular photo. And so that just gives you an idea of some of the ant activity that was occurring.
Let's move on to evidence collection. Did you collect any evidence in this case?
Yes, sir, I did.
And who put out the evidence markers?
I did.
And did anyone assist you in the collection of the evidence in this case?
Yes, I did. I had Special Agent Jamie Johnson have returned to the scene at this particular time, and I got her to assist me with some of the evidence collection.
Okay. I'd like to go through some specific items with you. I want to show them to you first, see if you can identify them. And tell us what it is. And we're going to start with State's Exhibit number 17. Should be SLED item number 5. Can you tell the jury what that is?
Yes, sir. Yes, this is what appears to be a taser door and some of the aphids that I referred to earlier. This was placed in our sealed container, and I know it was sealed at the time. It's not sealed now, but it was sealed at the time. My seal tape is on it. My initials and the date is on the seal tape.
And could you show the jury from what area you collected that item on State's Exhibit number 16?
Well, my marker where I marked it from is marked off here, so I'm not sure unless you have a reference where this one particular one came from.
Could be marker 1.
Marker 1, okay. So marker 1 would have been collected from this area here, where the one is indicated on the sketch. And here's Craig Road again, Yellow Road, back to Mega Farm, marker number 1.
And are the items in State's Exhibit 17 in substantially the same condition now as when you collected?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, we would offer Statement 17 into evidence at this time. Okay.
Submitted.
Let me hand you what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 18, and see if you recognize that item.
Yes, sir, I do.
What is that?
This will be a taser probe and some taser wire that was collected from marker 2. This would be, there is some additional packaging in here where it appears it has been examined by the lab, but the initial packaging has my seal and also Agent Johnson's seal on it as well from the time and date it was collected.
And is the probe and wire in substantially the same condition now as when it was collected at the scene?
Other than the additional packaging, yes.
Your Honor, this time we would offer State's 18 as evidence.
Show you where it's collected.
Moving on to State's Exhibit number 19. Yes, if you can identify that item. That would be marker number 3.
Yes, this appears to be a taser door off of one of the taser cartridges. And it's got my seal and my initials, also Agent Johnson's seal and initials from the date and time it was collected. Appears to be in the same condition as we collected.
Okay, and could you point out to the jury on the crime scene diagram in what area that was collected from?
Yes. Marker 3 would be indicated by this triangle here with the 3 in it. That's where that item was collected from.
Okay. We would offer State's 19 this time, Your Honor. Your interest. Okay. And you what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 20 or marker number 4. Ask if you can identify that.
Yes, sir, I can.
What are those items?
This would be some taser wire, taser cartridge, some entangled wire, and also a taser probe that was located. It's in, has in my seal bag. There again, some additional packaging where some other examinations taking place at the laboratory, but my initials and seal is on the bag.
AFID containing that too.
Yes, there was an AFID in there as well, yes.
And would you please point out where those items were collected from on the crime scene diagram, State's Exhibit number 16?
Marker 4 would be collected in this area, just to the side of marker 3.
Okay, and are those items in substantially the same condition now as they were when you collected them on the report?
Other than the additional packaging, yes, sir.
And this time we would offer State's 20. State's Exhibit number 21. Your marker number 5. What is that?
This here is another taser door. It's in our sealed container with my initials and Agent Johnson's initials and the date and time it was collected. And,
Okay, could you point that out on your crime scene diagram, sir?
sir, would have been right here, marker 5, right here to the, just to the, off to the side of marker 4.
Okay. And it's substantially the same condition as when collected.
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, we would offer State's 21. With that objection removed. Okay. States 22, if you could, identify that item first.
Yes, sir, this would appear to be the navy blue leather hat that was collected from the center of the Yellow Road. It's in a sealed bag with my sealed initials and date time collected, or time collected.
Once again, same condition as when collected?
Yes, sir.
And could you show the jury location on that on your crime scene diagram?
Marker 6 is right in this area here.
Okay. And, Your Honor, at this time we would offer States 22. Without objection, move it. States 23. Do you recognize that item?
Yes, sir, this would appear to be the watch that was also in the same area, that hat on the center of the road. It was a Dallas Cowboys watch, and this is the Cowboys watch that I remember. It's in my sealed packaging with my date on it. Also has our valuable tag that we place on the valuable evidence at the State Crime Lab. So yes, I'm familiar.
And is it in substantially the same condition now as when you collected it, sir?
Yes, sir, it appears so.
Your Honor, we would offer States 23.
May I see that,
Yes, sir.
23?
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to break for lunch at this time. We're going to break for 1 hour today. We anticipate stopping early since this is election day. We'll take 1 hour for lunch. Please go to the jury room. Are these exhibits being viewed for the first time? Okay, we'll take 1 hour for lunch. All right, well, during,